welcome to another Checiegirl Creations video. So today I will be sharing with you guys the process of me making one of the icons for Patreon. So this is the Gecko one for the Gecko tier. And at first you see me going over it with some black. I just used one of the basic pens, I think, and I just colored over the whole Gecko image so that I can select the black silhouette and then delete the background of the scanned image of the gecko so that the background will be transparent so I can add the background. So I originally made this with watercolors and then scanned it in. You guys probably seen the painting as well as the finished icon on Instagram if you follow me there. And I wanted to add a background, but I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to do a negative background, and I'll explain what that is a little bit later, as well as it be green and kind of have a 4-petal look to it. And I did a sketchbook spread kind of planning out what the backgrounds of the icons would be. So I'll put up a photo of that as well as the one I picked for the gecko, just to brainstorm, and then I could add it in digitally without worrying about ruining the painting. So I'm using Clip Studio Paint for the program. I recently started to use it. I've been using Critter previously. I'm very new to digital art actually, but I've been using Critter, which is a free program, which is great for when you're starting off. And I remembered that Clip Studio Paint actually came with my drawing tablet, my Wacom Inches drawing tablet, and I thought I would download it since it already came with the tablet to try it out, and I really like it. I find it doesn't have much of a learning curve, especially for someone as new to digital art as I am. The learning curve, there isn't really one there, to be honest. I just swatched out all the brushes beforehand, so I knew what they look like, so I can always reference back to that. And I just started. It's great. I really like it, and I find it works really nicely. No glitches, anything like that, and it's really nice. And I'm really glad that it came with the Wacom, because I know you do have to pay for this one, so that was really lucky. So the brush I used, I think I used the same brush the whole time except for when I was doing the silhouette of the gecko, is running watercolor. That's the brush I used, and I stuck to one brush just to keep it simple. And I picked that brush. I quite like the texture of it. I wanted the background to look as close to traditional as possible, so I picked that because it's nice and textured. I like the way it kind of blends. And yeah, so that's why I picked that one. And whenever you see me switching to another canvas, it's because I had a separate canvas for swatching. So if I had to walk away from the process, I could go back to the colors I used previously. And I also wrote down brush size and stuff like that, just in case I needed to. Refer back to that. So a negative painting is when you work backwards pretty much. So you start off light and you work darker, as you can see here. So I started off with a very light green background and just built up. I had a few, maybe 4 layers on this, I think, if I'm remembering correctly. You'll be able to see. And yeah, then you just kind of draw the shapes, and instead of filling in the shapes, you fill the outside of the shape and just continue on layering it up. And you just want to make sure your layers have quite a nice contrast so you can really see the difference between each image. I hope that explains it well enough. I've done quite a few negative paintings actually, and I'm trying to think if any of them are on YouTube. If they are, I'll link it in the iCard in the top right hand corner, and I'll also maybe put up one of them as an example. So you can see what it looks like in watercolor, because that tends to be the way I do it. So yeah, so I did negative painting, and I picked this 4-petal flower because I wanted to be green, so it would contrast really well with the gecko, which is mainly orange. But I didn't want it to be leaves, so I picked a 4-petal flower, because I didn't really want a 5-petal flower. I just thought it'd be really cute if it was a 4-petal flower, so I picked that. And yeah, that was pretty much the plan. And the colors, all I knew it was going to be green. I just basically kept on swatching and figuring out what green would look nice next to the gecko. I basically just kind of swapped between cool and warm greens, and I think it turned out really nice doing that. And every time you see that kind of bouncy, staticky looking line, that's when I'm using the select tool. So whenever I would put the shape in, I would then select outside of the shape and fill that in. And whenever I had to like draw around the previous shapes just to make sure it would be easier to select, there would always be like a bit of a harsh edge to it, so I didn't have to go and blend that in, and you've probably seen that already. And yeah, that was pretty much my process. Just start with the background, draw around, select, and then I just slap on the color. And then once I have to like blend in the hard edges, I will blend out the hard edges and then just go in and fill it in a little bit more, but a little bit more messily, so it has a nice texture. I didn't want it to be extremely what's the word, like very smooth and like kind of pristine looking. I didn't want to go for that style of digital art. I wanted it to be a bit more textured, like how my gecko is, because you know my gecko is very textured. The texture of the paper comes through, and I wanted that to come through a little bit with my background. So I made sure the edges weren't very perfect, blended it not, you know, well, but not too well, and so that there would be a little bit more movement. And one of the ways I added texture, oh, it's coming up now, yeah. So one of the ways I added texture was I picked the friction brush, which is under effects, I think, and I just picked a very light color. It was either extremely light green or white. Went over the whole background, then I put it on an overlay filter. Actually, it's not really called a filter, but it's a bit like a filter. Maybe it is called a filter, I don't know. But basically you just change the layer from normal to like overlay or whatever else you want. And it kind of blended with the background, so it added some texture. And then I went in and I guess kind of like blended and blurred out the edge of the gecko so that it would blend in a little bit better with the background. And I added some shadows. I believe on all the shadow layers, at least most of them, I had the layer on multiply, so it would just be a lot more darker and again blend in with the background quite nicely. So I did that, and I also added some highlights. Some of the highlights are on overlay and some of them are on glow, like one of the glow layers. I went really crazy with the highlights, and yeah, I had a lot of fun with playing around with like the layer settings. Those was really fun. And yeah, so at the moment you're seeing it at like not too long before I kind of walked away from it because it looked okay, but I found that it was kind of missing something a little bit. So I just kind of played around with the layers again, because like the contrast was nice, but it just looked as if the gecko was just kind of stuck on. So I just wasn't too sure about that, but I knew I wanted to add some like doodling, like details and highlights to the background, like I had done in my sketchbook. So I went in, again, this is either a very light green or white, and I added some details and highlights to the flowers as well as the background as well. I added crosses to the background actually, like each background would have their specific like mark making kind of doodle in the background. So with this one it's crosses. And you can see every now and again, I just kind of make the gecko layer invisible so I can see everything. Oh, and one of the things I wanted to mention, the great thing about digital art, not only do you have your layers, you can just copy a layer. So whenever I wasn't too sure about something I wanted to add, I would just duplicate the layer, experiment with the copied layer, and then see what it looks like. And yeah, so, and to make it like invisible, I would just click the eye, and I could just kind of keep on clicking the eye, looking at it with or without, and figure out whether I like it or not. And yeah, and this doesn't really have much of a light source. It's just kind of maybe where the light's hitting it, like where I think it would be nice to have highlights. This is very much like a standalone image, well, illustration, sorry. So yeah, I don't really have a specific light source that much. I was just kind of flinging the highlights and kind of making them make sense, but most of the time it was just playing around. So yeah, in a little bit you're going to see me add some stuff to the background. So the background just really was lacking. I found it really flat. So I made another layer and I just kind of picked up some of the colors from the gecko, some of the oranges, some like the blues, the grays, add some like more greens, and put it on a multiply layer and just kind of slapped on the color, again using the running watercolor, to add that like texture and color. And once I added especially the orange, everything just really fell into place. I really liked how it looked. And then I proceeded to do the same thing to the gecko. So again, multiply layer, or was it overlay? No, multiply layer, and then I just went in and added some shadows on top of the gecko. Like I figured if I did some digital like editing and stuff on top of the gecko, it would go in, it would like be a bit more cohesive. And it did work. It really turned out really nicely. So I added some more shadows. I added some shading, like some colored shading, just to make it look nice and warm, because I wanted him to look pretty alive. Oh, and I forgot to mention the gecko I'm painting is the Tobago least gecko. It's in Trinidad and Tobago. I saw it in Trinidad when I was there in 2019, and I took a photo of him and I really liked how he looked, so that's why I picked this gecko. So this one is a male. That's in like the mating season, and their colors are really beautiful, and they have these stripes on their head or sometimes like all down their back, so it's really pretty, and I wanted to illustrate him. And yeah, so again, adding some more highlights, and I also went around the whole edge of the gecko with a kind of a brownie color, just to, well, like a really deep orange, just to kind of again blend away those edges, because you could still see the edges from like where I'd like cut away. And added some more shadows, added some more highlights. Oh, I also made the highlights from the flower glow as well, just so they would like pop, but I didn't do it to the crosses because again, to help with depth, and I wanted the crosses to be further away in the background. And every now and again I would just kind of like blur out or blend out the shadows underneath the gecko. And yeah, I think that's it. I really love how this turned out. I'm so happy with it. I can't wait to add the others. Each tier is a reptile. So the first tier is gecko tier, and at the end I'll have a photo so you can see what's in the tier, but you can also check that out on Patreon. I'll have it linked in an iCard and in the description. And the second tier I have available on my Patreon is snake tier, and you get even more on there. Like the gecko one, you get behind the scenes videos like sooner than you would on YouTube, and then on the snake tier you get downloadable line art and bullet journal spreads. And again, that's all linked down below, and I might even put up an example of some of the bullet journal spreads, just so you guys can have a bit of a sneak peek if you are interested. So yeah, links are down below. I absolutely love how this turned out. I love using Clip Studio Paint. I find it's really easy to use, and yeah, it's really nice. I really do like using it. So I think that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed watching. I will have the snake process next week Friday, if you wanna see that. So if you do, please do subscribe and click the bell so you get notified if you haven't already. And then yeah, every Friday I upload a new video. Yeah, give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed the process and you like how it turned out. And I think that's it. So let me know, do you guys do any digital art? Let me know what programs you use. Are you new to it? Have you been doing it for a while? And have you ever combined traditional and digital art together? Because I'm really liking how that looks, and I can't wait to do that even more in the future. So thanks again for watching, and I will see you guys next week. Bye!